Welcome everybody to today's Two Saints podcast show with myself, Mark C, and my co-host, Mark H. Hi Mark, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, but it has been, as the Queen would have said, it has been another horribilis of a week for Southampton Football Club, and we'll be going on into greater detail on it on this podcast. But in the meantime, I hope that all the listeners are keeping safe and well, and for those that haven't been vaccinated, I hope you get vaccinated soon.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So that takes care of the intros for today. So we've got a show email address now for the podcast show, which is the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com. And that's for any questions or features you'd like to see in future podcasts. And obviously the ways to access the podcast are the following. We've got a recording for you if you just check this out. It will tell you how to access it. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints podcast show is now available via Spotify, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. There we go. Right, coming up in the first half of today's show, we have the Two Saints review of Saints 1, Brighton 2, and Saints Club news. So we'll take a very short break and we'll be straight back.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Right, welcome back everybody. So the Two Saints review of Saints 1, Brighton 2. Match report, and also performances weren't good enough according to Ralph Hasenhüttl and Musa Djenepo's reaction as well. So, yes, Ralph said it wasn't good enough, Mark, and I don't think I really need to expand on that because he's pretty much nailed it in one sentence, really. It wasn't good enough, was it? First half was all right. Good goal from Shay Adams, but very abject performance, I think it's fair to say. And the match reaction was pretty much the same, to be honest.
All I want to say is, I think certain parts of our fan base went into meltdown over the weekend.
Oh, just a bit.
But what I would say is this, let's try and be level-headed about everything, okay? What I would say, Mark, is that it was easily the worst home performance of the season.
Yeah.
Right? And if you want my take, I think Newcastle away was the worst away performance because taking everything else into consideration, when you look at the Man United game or you look at other games that we would have lost, I do feel that there was mitigating circumstances in terms of the amount of injuries that Saints had at that given time.
Yep, I agree with that.
So let's just concentrate then on the game itself. All I'm going to say is that I felt that the players didn't come out with the proper attitude on the day over the 90 minutes. Okay. I also felt the players that were rested, right? People like Minamino and Kyle Walker-Peters, and Kyle Walker-Peters is a very, very important player for us.
100%.
He's one of our quality players. I think we've got 3 or 4 at the club.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Right? And he comes into that bracket. So him playing well is always relevant because I always think if your quality players are playing well on the day, you win the game.
Definitely.
And that's the case for a side like us. All
Definitely.
Right?
Yep.
Or a squad like us, if you like.
Yeah. Also, as well, I think Jan Bednarek's played every minute this season, I believe, Mark, and it's the last couple of games it started to show a little bit. He's been caught out a couple of times, hasn't he? Which is very rare for Jan. So that shows how fatigued he is.
100%. I think he has been. There has been 1 or 2 tired performances thrown in there, and I do think that you are right, Mark. Sunday was probably, tired, but I'm not going to throw the book at him because, like you said, he's played every minute of every game.
Same with Ward-Prowse.
With Ward-Prowse this season.
Yeah.
And
Ward-Prowse had a dip in form as well, to be fair.
the two of them would be two of my first starters on the team sheet, you know.
Yep.
But having said all of that, you know, Stuart Armstrong had an opportunity inside the first 10 minutes. And Shay Adams had an opportunity within the first 10 minutes. And then as soon as that happened, Brighton comes into the game. So Brighton come into the game. Lewis Dunk scores with a header.
From almost outside the area.
Yeah. Ryan Bertram, I mean, all I'm going to say, Mark, is I didn't have a problem with Ryan Bertram being on, but at least get a jump on him. At least get a jump on him, you know.
He didn't really kind of do anything. He kind of sort of half turned, half backed into him. He didn't really commit to anything, did he?
Exactly.
Almost gave him a free header to be. Well, it was a free header. Let's be honest.
Ground for a kick-off.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So. But having said that, I mean, you know, so Brighton take the lead. You know, and I thought on it they probably deserved to take the lead because, like I said, first 10 minutes we were fine, and then they started to dominate, and obviously they got their goal through their domination. Yeah. And then it was a strange one. You know, we replied with the Shay Adams goal.
Yep.
And you're kind of thinking to yourself, we're in the game now.
Yep.
And funnily enough, it was at that point, sort of 10 minutes after we scored, that we were dominant. So there was that period where we were at 1-1, and for the 10 minutes after we scored the goal, we looked like we were going to go on and score a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people like Millamino at that point come to life. You know, they're not doing anything the rest of the game, but they come to life in that purple patch.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the thing was in that actual purple patch, 10 minutes after we'd scored, we didn't score, right? Brighton come back into the game towards the end of the half, you know, and we're going in at halftime 1-1, and you're thinking, well, it's not as bad as the performance suggests, because, you know, obviously the first half performance was better than the second half performance. You know, and then we go into the second half, and obviously you could kind of tell, you know, after the first 5-10 minutes, I thought to myself, we're looking a bit sluggish here. You know, we're looking a bit punch drunk, and basically Brighton, you know, the score through Tossard. I want to say one thing. You know, much as I say about the players that were rested, not turning up in the game, so that we're talking about the players that were rested for the Man City game. The other thing that I would say, Mark, is our backline struggled a hell of a lot as a unit. They struggled. And also, I've got to say that Diallo, you know, for me, for the job you were looking for him to do, and also the fact that he went missing, you know, I didn't hear his name enough.
Yeah, I was going to say, I felt for periods of the game just passed him by, to be fair.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing because he showed a lot of promise when he first came in. And I believe he's still got that ability. Obviously, we know what ability he's got. And I think that was the downside to it. We know what he's capable of.
In those sort of games, your central midfielders are key 100%. In terms of winning the ball, distributing the ball.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say is Oriol Romeu, that was his kind of game on Sunday. Right?
Yeah, and I'd like to add as well, Mark, so anybody saying that the tactics were wrong against Brighton and it was down to Ralph the way things were happening, ask Mark what was happening, people, because Mark was listening to the game and I was, with no crowd noise on. So anybody who wants to sit there and blame Ralph Hasenhüttl and say your tactics are wrong, Ralph, they were knocking the ball back too often and sideways too much and backwards too much. Mark can put you to rights on that one because he was listening to it with no crowd noise, same as I was, and he can tell you exactly what Ralph was doing. Because I'm getting a bit fed up of hearing people blame Ralph for this one, Mark, and you can back Ralph up on this one because you heard what he was shouting, same as I did.
I mean, all I'm going to say, Mark, is I just want to mention, I'm saying about Remey.
Yep.
The thing is he was missed in that game on Sunday because
Definitely
he would have got about the players.
Yep.
He would have put one or two tackles in, and I do think that if you did that, say, against a Tossard or a Mopé or a Lallana, you're more or less putting them off their game from the get-go. I don't, Ibrahim Diallo is a much more creative kind of player, right? He's a player that picks a pass, good vision, all the rest of it. I don't think he's the physical side of a central midfielder, and for that, we kind of did miss Oriol Romeu on Sunday. Just going back to the point you made, so if you actually sat with no crowd noise on Sunday, you can clearly hear, and especially in the second half, when our back four are playing the ball amongst themselves, Ralph is clearly heard saying, get the ball forward, right? Similarly, and this is through no fault of his own, but I would say this, right? Whether you think Ralph makes substitutions late or whatever, what I would say about Sunday was he made the substitutions, and I would say that for me it made the team worse.
I was going to say that. Ralph said that himself, actually. Ralph actually said the subs made it worse.
Because he brought on Nathan Redmond, he brought on Gineppo, right? And clearly what he was wanting from them, he wasn't getting, because you could hear him on that mic. I mean, it sounded very, very close to me. I don't know where it was in relation to where he was or whatever.
Right next to him, pretty much.
You can clearly hear him, right, with Redmond and Gineppo, where there was opportunities to cross the ball into the box. And he's going, cross it, get the ball in, right? And the one most infuriating thing, and that was with both players, but the one most infuriating one that I remember the most must have been about 4 minutes to go. And Nathan Redmond had a perfect crossing opportunity, right? And Ralph was going, get it in there, right? Or words to that effect. And Nathan Redmond passes the ball all the way back. The young Bednarek, who stood on the halfway line at the time.
And Ralph was apoplectic.
I would have been good. I mean, I was going mental.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Ralph was apoplectic because he certainly looked it. He looked absolutely furious.
And the thing is, I mean, yes, Ralph, as a manager, he has part of the responsibility, and I'd always say that. But you can't legislate. I mean, if you're going at the top of your lungs and you've sent players on to the field of play with instructions, right? And I would imagine the instructions were pretty clear.
Yep.
Because he was pretty clear on the sideline.
Yep.
And those instructions are not being carried out. There's nothing you can do.
Well, that's the thing. He keeps getting slated by fans. What can Ralph do if players aren't cooperating? And then people come out with silly stuff like, "Oh, he's lost the dressing room." He hasn't lost the dressing room. It's just a stupid comment to make.
It is a stupid comment to make.
Look at the players in training and him in training. He hasn't lost the dressing room at all.
No, I think the thing that we suffer with is confidence, mate.
Yep.
And another key thing that I spotted on Sunday was, high hopes for Nathan Teller because there isn't much else coming through apart from maybe Seb Watts, right? But the thing is on Sunday, I was disappointed in the fact that Lewis Dunk was on him, okay? And he was playing up front alongside Shea Adams. But what didn't actually dawn on him at any stage was to kind of drag Lewis Dunk out to the left the left-hand side, right-hand side, whatever, to drag him out of position to create space for others. And he was very much playing like in a tram line. And it was very, very easy for Lewis Dunk, because even though he's a very experienced, defender, and obviously he had, Nathan's number to a degree, right? I did feel that there was opportunities where he could have dragged them out of position to create space for other people then coming in. And I just thought he was, he made it a little bit too easy for Lewis Dunk to mark him, to be honest.
Brighton probably deserved it on balance of play. And obviously Ralph was frustrated as we were. But that was that. And we move on from there, Mark. We move on to the Bournemouth game at the weekend.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that brings us to the end of the Two Saints review of Saints versus Brighton. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to do Saints Club news for you.
Fiesta 95 FM, the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, Saints Club news. Jack Bycroft contract extension, television selections for April, update on the women's season, club statement, team report Man City versus Southampton in the Premier League 2, Fulham versus Southampton under 18s, and James Ward-Prowse 300 appearances for Southampton. So, Jack Bycroft signed a contract extension, Mark, for 2 years.
Absolutely delighted, Mark, because, the coining a phrase that was very popular. I don't know whether it's still popular or not. He's one of our own.
That old chestnut.
And all I'm going to say is, Jack has been in the system, a la Ward-Prowse, if you like, since about 6 or 7. He is a Southampton fan. He's from the local area.
Yep.
I'm pleased to see that he signed a new contract. Of course he am.
Me too.
I'd love to see greater representation, but it's all about whether you're good enough or not. And clearly,
Absolutely.
At the moment, they feel Jack's good enough. He's making enough of, progress and stuff like that. So I very much welcome it, mate. And, I wish him all the best for the future. And hopefully, at some stage, in his career, he's going to be making an appearance at St Mary's.
Yep, definitely. Let's hope so.
In the first team?
Yep, let's hope so. Absolutely. So, moving on. 2 of Southampton's Premier League matches scheduled for April have been selected for live TV coverage as part of the first batch of picks for the coming month. So, Saints versus Burnley, Sunday the 4th of April, kick-off 12 noon, live on Sky Sports. And West Brom versus Saints, Monday the 12th of April, kick-off 6pm, live on Sky Sports. Confirmation of remaining fixtures will follow in due course, and will therefore provide details around the home clash with Crystal Palace once this is known. And I can't help thinking, Mark, Saints versus Burnley on a Sunday means we're probably not going to get a watch-along. Oh, bugger.
Yes, just for the listeners, the reason why Mark's saying that is we normally have watch-alongs for games, but sometimes when we have Sunday kickoffs, the watch-alongs get thrown in the doubt, and we have missed a few because of it. So hopefully, yes, we'll be able to do the watch-along. But I have to say, when I seen the movement of the 2 fixtures, I was kind of like, there's a degree of me now where I'm sat there, especially the Sunday fixtures, and I'm going, don't move, it's still Sunday.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't.
But I don't know. I mean, I I'm a traditionalist. I just prefer being played on a Saturday.
Yeah, you and me both.
Even if it is late in the day, I don't care if it's 8 o'clock at night or whatever, but Saturday's my preferred choice. I'm not really a Sunday man.
Saturday's always been football day, isn't it? All those years of football focus and grandstand and final score and everything else, It's always been a Saturday. But anyway. So, moving on. Southampton FC Women's 2020-21 league season has been curtailed with immediate effect and declared incomplete. This is the second year running that Marianne Spacey Cow side have seen their season declared void while sitting top of the FA Women's National League. We'll just promote them already. Don't worry about games that have been played or anything else. You don't need to. They've been top 2 seasons running. Just promote them. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, see, this is strange to me, okay? So they've curtailed their league season, right? And as I understand it, Mark, to me, it would be devastating for the girls that have been invested for the last 2-3 seasons, whatever it's been, and they've been top for the last 2 seasons, and for not to be given the opportunity to go up. I know they're looking at it. There's a possibility that basically the season stops, and as it is now, those people get promoted. And I've got to say, do the women really want to do a 3rd season at that level, and have to produce the goods again? I think it's an awful situation to find themselves in. I think they deserve to be promoted. You can call us biased if you like, but I do think, the women's section has been the one successful constant in terms of, I'm not talking about the first team here, but in terms of when you look at the B team and you look at the under 18s and then you look at the women's section, and the women's section has been the one most consistent, performing week in, week out, and they deserve to be promoted. So let's hope that happens, because I'd hate to think that the season starts again next season and they're at the same level, because they deserve to be promoted up. And then the other thing that I would say is, the reason why I also find it slightly bizarre is that they haven't stopped, the FA Cup at that level, right? Because obviously Saints have got to play, I think, 2 or 3 teams, if they progress through the rounds, right? And they're all sort of lower league standard before you hit the sort of Championship or the Premier League women, and I find it ironic. I understand that obviously they feel the league needs to be curtailed and they want to try and get the FA Cup done, but it is a bizarre situation. I'm sure you'd agree that the FA Cup gets to carry on, even though it's at lower league standard at the moment. But yet, you can't finish you can't finish a league season. But look, it is what it is. Let's hope that they're given the promotion, as it stands. And all I want to say is, as far as I'm aware, all I would say is good luck to the women in the FA Cup. And, I'm really sorry that the season's been curtailed again. But let's hope, as I say, that they're promoted.
Absolutely. Yep, me and you both agree on that one, 100%. So, let's hope that does happen. So, moving on. Club statement issued 16th of March 2021. Open communication to the victims and survivors of historic child abuse at Southampton Football Club. To all of the victims and survivors of the child abuse carried out by Bob Higgins at Southampton Football Club in the 1970s and 1980s, we are deeply sorry. Whilst we've provided statements from the club and written to a number of the survivors of Bob Higgins at their request, we've received feedback to suggest this approach may not have reached everyone impacted in the way that we'd hoped. We therefore hope this open apology might help to address this. Over the course of this year, we'll be providing information about the steps taken, what the club are permitted to communicate externally, since the club were first contacted by Hampshire Police in 2016. Upon completion of the independent review currently being undertaken by Bernardo's, we will publish what we've learned of the failings at the club that allowed and facilitated abuse to take place at that time and how that abuse could have been prevented. It's very clear that historically there were some very considerable failings that allowed this abuse to start and continue for such a long period of time. For a professional football club not to prevent this abuse or be able to provide support for anyone speaking up to report it is inexcusable. This, along with the impact on the lives of the survivors of the abuse, as well as the families around them, is something we are very sorry for. We hope that the steps we've taken to be entirely open with Hampshire Police since they contacted us in 2016 to make us aware of the possibility of abuse occurring at the club help to show that the club is a very different place now compared to the past. We also hope that being available to the survivors that wish to make contact with us since Higgins was convicted will help to rebuild some trust with those who suffered so badly under our care. Over the last 5 years, we've learned a great deal about the abuse that happened at the club. This has been helped greatly by the interactions that we've had with a number of the victims and survivors. Each of those people have displayed incredible dignity and bravery in being open with us about their experiences at the club. Their views on what we can learn from those experiences so that we can apply those lessons to the safeguarding work we do now, and their feelings on how we've handled engaging with the victims and survivors of abuse. We realise this has not been perfect at times, but it has been challenging. If anyone who suffered abuse at the club would like to speak with us, please make contact with us by emailing us at investigations@saintsfc.co.uk. We'll be happy to arrange a time to cover anything you might wish to discuss. We're awaiting the publication of the Sheldon Review and are fully engaged in this. We hope that the findings allow us to further understand how football historically failed to protect so many young and aspiring footballers. We're open to anyone who wants to contact us after the publication of the Sheldon Review or following the independent Bernardo's Review we commissioned in May 2019 and which we will publish in full once complete. Our door is open and we'd like to hear from you. Once again, we are truly sorry for the abuse that any player experienced at the club and hope that we might be able to offer any answers or support that any of you might require. That was the club statement issued on March the 16th in relation to historical child abuse carried out by Bob Higgins during his time at Southampton Football Club.
All I would add to it, Mark, is it should never have happened in the first place. But
100%.
You know, the thing is that, you know, as the club says, it's a very, very different place, and you know, at least we're trying to engage. You know, you never right the wrongs of something like this. You know, you never right the wrongs, but you know, the thing is that it was probably important once the report came out for the club to make the statement. But, you know, I just feel awful for anybody who suffered at the hands of Bob Higgins. I mean,
you and me both, Mark.
You know, but there it is.
You and me both. So moving on from there, and a very, very solid situation. Thankfully, he was successfully convicted, so he's paying the price for what he did, and so he should. It's only right. Anyway, moving on. So B team report: Man City 7, Southampton 1, and the under-18s report: Fulham 6, Southampton 0.
Right now, can I have a meltdown?
Go for it.
How many times are we going to visit this, Mark? You know, people worry about the first team. I think there's a lot less to worry about the first team than what there is going on underneath. Because what is going on underneath is a disaster. It is a disaster. And while I accept that the under-18s, it's all about development, you know, if you care to take a quick look at the tables, the under-18s are bottom of theirs, and the B team are second from bottom of theirs. And the results for me at the weekend was a combination of how both sides' seasons have been, right? Now, as I understand that there's a group of coaches that are responsible for the under-18s, and I've always stated that I accept that it's at that stage it's about development, right? A different picture for the Saints B team, right? They're, you know, delivering players for the first team, and I think one of the problems that we do have potentially for me would be that we play 18, 19-year-olds in what is an under-23 league.
Yep.
You know, you've got sides like Blackburn and Derby who are obviously, they enjoy the prestige of being able to play in the elite group, if you like, in under-23 football in the country, and they play overage players. within the rules of the league, but they play overage players.
Yep.
Okay. And I just think to myself, I get that, Southampton want them to come through at an early age. I get all of that. And I'll go back to both teams and say to you, it doesn't matter how talented the individuals are, but for both the under-18s and the B team, right, I would say that winning matches breeds confidence, right?
Yeah, absolutely does.
You might have an average player, as he's come through, right? And then all of a sudden you're winning games and you see something about him, right? But the thing is it's a lot more difficult to find the gems or the diamonds within any team if they're losing games week in, week out. Right?
Yep.
And the confidence factor, it's the same as in the first team. I mean, we're slightly avoiding confidence at the minute. You have to say it. And, Saturday's game is going to be vital to that. There's loads of people saying, I'm more concerned about the league than the cup. But I'm just touching on this briefly, Mark. But to me, Saturday's game is just as important. And it's nothing to do with getting to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. It's an opportunity for our first team to go out and win a game of football.
Absolutely right.
And similarly, when we're talking about the under-18s and the B team, I'm sorry, but anybody who's playing for our B team or our under-18s at the minute, obviously they enjoy playing their football.
Yep.
But you must be void of any sort of confidence whatsoever, because we are getting decked most weeks. We're losing games of football most weeks, right? And the best thing we're doing is drawing games. And I don't want to have a go at the under-18s. But there's two things I will question. I'll ask, the director of who's looking after things down at Staplewood, Mr. Matt Crocker. Yep. And I would ask, Dave Horseman, who's the manager or the head coach of the B team, what is actually going on? Because Dave Horseman, you have a worse record than Randy Jade.
Yeah, he does.
In fact, he's probably got one of the worst records for a B team or an under-23 team or a reserve team.
Yep.
For Saints. And you do question what's going on down there at the minute. I've got, at the end of the day, I'm going to give over about it. But it's hugely, hugely disappointing. And I can't see, unless we're winning games of football, I don't see how people are coming into the first team and being confident.
Yep. Absolutely.
It all has a knock-on effect. It's like you said, football a lot of the time, it's psychological, it's psychology 100%. And everything else.
Yep, it is. Success is bred from confidence as well. Confidence breeds success as well. So Nigel Atkins said that once. Confidence breeds success. So there you go. Anyway, moving on. And talking of confidence and talking of success, who better than our captain to emulate that? So 300 appearances now for James Ward-Prowse with Saints, Mark. Fantastic achievement.
Brilliant.
Not bad for a lad that was born in Pompey.
Yeah. Absolutely superb. And I can't wait for the day when we get to celebrate his testimonial year.
Absolutely.
Because hopefully, he's signed a contract that'll take him up and past that. And hopefully he's still here if the powers of B are not flogging him off to the house better.
Absolutely.
Because I believe he may have been born in Portsmouth, but the core of him runs red and white for me.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And
your highlight, Mark.
Oh, there's so many, mate. But
I'm going to pin you down to one big highlight.
I'll give you two.
I was going to pin you down to one, but I'll give you two.
One's a quick anecdote, right? loved the fact that when he was interviewed about his time at time with Saints and long may it continue. One of the things that he did say was that he really enjoyed the derby recently. Well, I say recently, 2019. But he said when they were celebrating Danny Ings' goal, he was reluctant to go over because he could see the shower of coins that was being thrown at the Southampton, players. And you sort of sit there and you think, with him saying that, you're thinking to yourself, what was the officials doing? Or anybody else for that matter inside the stadium? I mean, I was at the game and yeah, it was enjoyable. But I have to say, I went to the first game where he scored, which was a 2-0. I think it was 2-0 against Coventry. It might have been 2-1. Aaron Martin also scored on, and that day, and that was quite an event. But my favourite is the Tottenham free kick, 2-1 win. We came back from the dead that day. And really, when the ball hit the back of the net, mate, I thought the roof was going to come off somewhere.
I was there. I was right behind that.
Honestly, the atmosphere was just superb.
And guess what? I was sat right behind the free kick.
Oh, yeah?
I sat right behind it, yeah. Sat right behind it.
And I was up the other end.
Yeah, no, I was sat right behind it. Absolutely brilliant. I had the best view in the stadium. Just as it nestled in the top corner.
Yeah,
brilliant.
So, but
Beat Lloris, it all ends up fantastic.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster for him because I always sat there and I've always maintained that James's best position was in the centre of the park. And we had, that lad has played so many different positions for us. Yep. I remember they even experimented with playing him as a right midfielder, playing him out wide. Yep. He's played right back, which again, I don't agree with any of it. His best position is in the middle of the park, and I've long been a champion of his free kicks and taking the penalties.
Absolutely right. For me, it's 2 career highlights for me at Saints so far. First ever England full international call-up, which is fantastic recognition for him and the club. And the second one, 2 free kick goals against Aston Villa on your birthday. It doesn't come any better than that. So I'm hoping on Sunday at Bournemouth, somebody just tells James it's his birthday. Anyway, but look, 300 appearances, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for everything so far, James. And like Mark says, totally looking forward to your testimonial.
Yeah, and I think let's carry it on, James. Let's carry it on.
And I think that sums that up brilliantly. So we're going to take a break now. But coming up in the second half of the show today, we've got other football news, Saints in the press and Saints transfer gossip, and the 2 Saints preview of Bournemouth versus Saints in the FA Cup. We'll be back very shortly.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the 2 Saints show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, other football news, and the first 4 stories are Sheffield United and Saints related. Chris Walder has departed Sheffield United. Sheffield United having a very bad result at the end of a turbulent week. Also, Saints and Sheffield United both fined £20,000 for failing to control their players at the end of the game that they played recently. And the last one of those, Shay Adams called up to Scotland squad for World Cup qualifiers. And if everyone wondering what the link is with Sheffield United is where he actually began his career before moving to Birmingham and Saints. So there we go.
Yeah. So basically, I'll cover all 4 very quickly.
Yep, no worries, Mark.
All I would say on the Chris Wilder situation is there was a lot of money spent, £110 million. I'm trying to give a bit of balance here.
Yep.
Right? There was £110 million since they've come into the Premier League. So effectively, you're talking about £55 million summer.
Yep.
But even besides all of that, Mark, what I would say is Sheffield United have shot themselves in the foot by getting rid of Chris Wilder. Yep. He is one of their own. He's a blade. And the thing is irrespective of everything in the season that they've had, bear in mind that, Jack O'Connell, who's a linchpin at the back for them, the back line at different times has had to sort of the injuries thing, I know it's been the same for everybody, so I'm not making an excuse for him there. Maybe you could have argued that, they signed Rhian Brewster, and he hasn't probably been the success that they were hoping for in the Premier League, right? This season. But on the flip side of that, they've signed Aaron Ramsdale, and to be honest with you, he's done quite well for them, surprisingly. And I think the 5-0's the first time that they've properly been beaten by somebody this season. I mean, even though they've been losing games, it's only been by the odd goal and stuff like that. So I think for me, they've shot themselves in the foot by getting rid of him, because I still think everything was in place for them to go up. When you look at the squad, the squad have been in the a lot of the players have been in the Championship before, and even if they're dropping down, they're good enough of that standard to bring Sheffield United back up again. So I think they've made a dreadful mistake by axing him as the manager. And I just think that the result was the combination of that. Obviously it has affected the players that, he's left. And I get the point that Billy Sharp made, that it was totally unprofessional.
It was.
And it was. But the thing is sometimes a person can leave a football club and it leaves the whole place dejected and deflated. And I think that's what's happened. And what's happened. And obviously, it's an impossible situation for Paul Higginbotham to come into, the under-23 coach.
Well, it doesn't get any better either, does it? Because both them and Southampton have now been fined £20,000 as well.
And I'll watch with interest to see who comes in, because Jason Tinsdale, the assistant, has gone up there to help out. And obviously, because he's gone up there to help out, Mark, there are people suggesting that Eddie Howe is on his way, because apparently Jason Tinsdale's there to have a look and sort things out, before the end of the season. And then over the summer,
Eddie Howe,
comes Eddie Howe on his white horse.
Eddie Howe wants a return to the Premier League.
Just moving on from that, the brawl. I mean, this.
It was handbags at 20 paces.
I have to be honest, mate. I was baffled. There was one or two people had their hands around people's
neck. It was handbags.
Admit that, but £20,000 each for the incident. I thought that's exorbitant. It is. That is.
There goes the summer transfer budget of Saints then, Mark.
Yeah, something like that. And then, of course, we come to the final bit where Shea Adams has decided, after much consideration, that he wants to go and play for Scotland. I do find it interesting, because obviously Alex McLeish originally approached him, and I think he looked at there was maybe a degree of hoping that he would get, obviously, noticed by England because of his goal scoring exploits, even in the Championship at the time, right? And then obviously comes to us. But I think I'm going to be slightly cynical here, Mark, and say that, Steve Clarke's timing was perfect, given that Scotland have just qualified for the Euros this summer. And Shea Adams probably sat there thinking to himself, I won't get to play in that many finals. I'm not getting any recognition from England at the minute. I'm going to throw my hat into the ring. And let's hope he has a good tournament, because then his value for Saints will skyrocket.
Absolutely right.
But just in case the listeners are interested, Shea actually qualifies for Scotland through his Scottish granny. And we on the pod wish him all the best, and
absolutely,
I hope that he bangs in a few goals during the Euros for Scotland if he gets the opportunity. He should do, because when I look at what the forwards that they've got, or the forwards in the squad at the moment, for their next match coming up, right? I'd say Shea Adams is probably the most mobile of the lot.
Yep, I think I'd agree with that. So, moving on to the Football League. Lee Bowyer replaces Aitor Karanka as Blues boss, Steve Cottrell back home after COVID treatment, and Al Yazmi's Wigan takeover agreed. So that's financially troubled League One club Wigan Athletic have agreed to take over with a consortium led by Bahraini businessman Abdul Rahman Al Yazmi. So, over to you, Mark. Lee Bowyer, Steve Cottrell, and Al Yazmi's takeover.
So, the Lee Bowyer one, it's not any great surprise for me, really. When it was announced that he'd left Charlton, I did think to myself, has he got a job lined up? And then the very next day, he gets appointed Birmingham manager. I think I'm right in saying that he started out at Charlton, and I think I'm right in also saying that he did have a period of time where he played at Birmingham, although he may not have. That might be me just thinking that. But what I was going to say, Mark, is it's the old adage of bigger club, bigger budget, greater opportunity. And I'm sure, even though they look like they're heading down, I'm sure that Lee Bowyer's fairly confident that he'll be able to bring them back up. Because he did it with Charlton. I mean, they went down last season from the Championship after he had brought them up from League One. So I'm sure that he's convinced that he would be able to obviously bring Birmingham up, stabilise them in the Championship, and then maybe, in a second season in the Championship, give it a real good go. But obviously the key is for him to bring them up first. But obviously he feels with the budget that Birmingham's got, he can do it.
Yep.
One interesting footnote that I found out about Birmingham is Carsten Young, who's done time, he's still got shares in Birmingham City.
Wow.
How can that be? But there you go, listeners. Yeah, no, he's still got shares in Birmingham City. So apart from that, the other. Sorry, you're going to have to tell me the other ones, Mark. My memory's
gone. Sorry. Al Yazmi is taken over at Wigan.
Yep.
Bahraini businessman.
So basically, I'm relieved for the Wigan supporters, for the town, for the community, because they have kept that club running. I've got to say that the takeover is richly deserved, and the owner has stated that he will put the club at the heart of the community in the town of Wigan, and I hope he does do that.
Yep,
but I'm very, very pleased for those supporters who, over the last year, has kept that club afloat through the donations and everything else.
Absolutely right. So we move on to Scottish football now. Old Firm B teams could join League 2 next season. Scottish League 1 and 2 clubs vote for a 22-game season with a split after 18 matches. And also, the last one of those, Aberdeen, Sir Alex Ferguson is currently advising Chairman Dave Cormack in manager search. So those are your Scottish football headlines, Mark.
So the first one, going to the first one, I wouldn't be in favour of there being Rangers and Celtic cult teams, right, in Scottish League football, right? The proposal is that they're talking about 2 teams from the Highland League, 2 teams from the Lowland League, and a Rangers cult team and a Celtic cult team join basically the lowest league in Scottish football and work their way up. And I would turn around and I would say I am sure that there are other football clubs and teams within either the Lowland League or the Highland League that would love the opportunity to play in the league. The thing is the excuse that's always given for these cult teams to play, within the league structure is that it would help to develop, Scottish football. All to my mind is all you're helping to do is develop players for Rangers and Celtic, who are the two biggest teams in Scotland. And
can't argue that.
How does it benefit if you have a situation where, there's other clubs within the non-league structure that I'm sure would love to be playing league football?
Yep.
So I'm feeling to appreciate how having a cult Celtic and Rangers team within the Scottish League structure would benefit any of the other teams.
I agree, Mark.
That are playing around. The one thing that they'll always use is you might have supporters from Rangers and Celtic that will quail the gates whenever these cult teams are playing. But a lot of the chairmen of the lower league clubs have pointed out, how does that help to develop their players? Their younger players and stuff like that there. If you're introducing, basically Celtic and Rangers cult sides.
Yep.
So that's where I am on that. The other thing I would say is going on to the next story, which is obviously about they've settled on a 22-game league basically for the season, and this is League One and League Two, Scotland. And I'm pleased that they're back up and running. I watch a program every Friday called View from a Terrace.
Yep.
You can get on iPlayer. There's four lads that introduced the program. One's a Rafe Rovers fan, two are Hearts fans, and obviously with the championship going on, they've still had their football. But the main presenter is a lad called Craig Telfer, and he's a Stenhousemuir fan. Right. And I know that he absolutely delighted that football for him is back. He's a great supporter of the lower leagues and stuff. So, it's great to see them back, mate. But apparently, the leagues have agreed 22 and they're going to try and play 22. But if it's not possible, they're going to revert back to the Scottish Football League's plan, which would be an 18-game season.
Right.
Because obviously it's just dependent on whether there's outbreaks of COVID and stuff like that. Yep. But the plan at the minute is to play 22 games, and then the season finishes, and whoever is top and bottom get promoted and relegated.
Brilliant. Excellent. So, moving on, football admin and European football stories.
Sorry, Mark. There was one we missed there. The Aberdeen story.
Oh, yep.
I did laugh when I read this, right? Because I thought to myself, Alex hasn't set foot probably in Aberdeen since about 1986, since he moved to Manchester United. And I did laugh when they turned around and they said, Dave McCormick, who's the chairman at Aberdeen, obviously, they're seeking Alex's advice to who gets appointed. And the thing that made me laugh was I turned around and I thought to myself, the last time he did something like that, Man United appointed David Moyes, and look what happened there. But,
that was a roaring success.
Yeah, but all I'm going to say is just on the Aberdeen thing as well. I mean, apparently Aberdeen are looking to appoint Stephen Glass, who was an ex-Aberdeen player, and they're also looking to bring in Scott Brown from Celtic, because apparently Scott Brown was with Stephen Glass when they were Hibernian together. But I've got to be honest and say, from my own perspective, I think if it was me, I'd be trying to look and go for somebody with a little bit more experience. I still think that, and I know I said this in the pod a couple of weeks ago for them, I still think that, somebody like a Stephen Robinson would be a good appointment for them.
Yep. I think you're probably right. Right, moving on from there. So, football admin and European stories. Maheta Milongo is to replace Gordon Taylor as PFA CEO. He was actually CEO at Real Mallorca. He's left there and gone back to England to be the CEO for the PFA. Played World Cup every 2 years and the Euros, Arsene Wenger says, and scrap the rest of them. So that's an interesting one. Also, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the AC Milan striker, has been recalled by Sweden after retiring approximately 5 years ago, I believe it was. And Champions League, Steve Parish says a reformed 36-team tournament would be devastating for English football. So Malongo to replace Gordon Taylor, Mark.
Yeah. All I'm say on this one would be, I was unaware, even with my extensive football knowledge, right? I was unaware that this chap was a striker at Brighton and Hove Albion.
Yeah.
I was only made aware of him actually when he was the CEO at Real Mallorca.
Yep.
That was the first time I'd actually heard of him.
Yep.
I think it's a great appointment, Mark.
Yep.
Not only that, because of the diversity thing,
Yep.
and I think it's something that's long overdue. And at the end of the day, hopefully he can help to address and bring things up to speed within the PFA, in all sorts of different matters, because even though they've improved in recent months or within the last year, I would say, they've still got a long way to go, and he'll be at the forefront of that. And, hopefully it'll be a great appointment for the PFA.
Yep, let's hope so. And good to see some diversity as well. So, moving on.
Yeah.
Arsene Wenger says they should play the World Cup every 2 years and the Euros every 2 years and scrap everything else.
Yeah, look, at first I thought to myself,
he's lost the plot.
The guy is definitely, it's the onslaught of old age here. But after thinking about it, Mark, I thought it's not actually that crazy, because, let's see how, the next two Nations League sort of schedules are, right? And let's see in terms of crowds, in terms of people that are engaging with the tournament. Let's see how it goes. But I actually came round to the way of thinking that actually playing the tournaments every 2 years, World Cup and European Championship, isn't as mad as it sounds, because the thing is you cut out any international friendlies whatsoever, because even though with the bringing in of the Nations League, right?
Yep.
We're still having friendlies. And I just think to myself, the whole idea of the Nations League was not to have any friendlies whatsoever. So, I think I would be in favour of doing it, because at least then you would know that in terms of qualifying and everything that goes on with that every 2 years, you know that every game, every international game that you play has something on it. Absolutely. And I'm sure that would appeal to the vast majority of supporters and fans.
Absolutely right. Yeah, 100%. So moving on to something that's quite surprising as well. 5 years after his international retirement, Sweden's record goal scorer Zlatan Ibrahimovic is to return to the international team at the ripe old age of 39. Age is no barrier, Mark.
It's certainly, stop nicking my tagline. Now, I just want to point out to the listeners that Mark works on another show, right? And, I picked this one out especially for him to comment on, right? And it was actually me that coined age is no barrier.
It was.
And, yes. And, I mean, look, good luck to him. I mean, let's be fair. He's probably still head and shoulders above most of the, Swedish internationals. So good luck to him. And let's hope he bags a brace over the international break.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't score against England again, I don't care. So, moving on. Champions League. Steve Parish says reform for that 16 tournament could be devastating for England. That was the Crystal Palace chairman.
100%, Mark. I mean, this hasn't gone away. All right, we're not hearing about it, but it's very much that, the top European sides, not necessarily talking about clubs in this country, but certainly Juventus and teams like that there, they are pushing for this 32-team European League, and it would have it's all right for us all to sit here and go, fine, let's get rid of all these top 6 or 7 clubs in England and let them go off and form the European League. But it would be devastating for English football for the first few years until, because financially, all the money would end up going over to this European, Super League. And that's the reality. And much as you and I might sit there and go, oh, let them go, who gives the monkeys? The knock-on effect for the English game, the domestic English game, would be devastating. And that wouldn't be just felt in the top league, that would filter down the whole game.
Yep, absolutely.
So once that money disappears, and it's a difficult one, but yes, I totally agree with Steve Parish and the sentiment that he's made.
Yep. Right, moving on now to women's football. Manchester United women are to play at Old Trafford for the first time when they take on West Ham in the Women's Super League on Saturday, the 27th of March, which is absolutely fantastic. Hannah Hampton, Birmingham City goalkeeper, in tears before kick-off over Olympic exclusion. Yeah, poor timing. It was only announced 90 minutes before kick-off. And Sisterhood FC, Yasmin Abdullahi talks about the formation of what she believes is the only Muslim women's football team currently in the UK. Right, over to you, Mark.
Yeah, so effectively, all I'm going to say is the Birmingham. I'm going to go to the Birmingham City one first.
Yep. Right? Very poor timing.
It was. Look, the thing is she knew that there was no guarantees, but the timing and the way that it was dealt with was not very good.
No, woeful.
It was awful, and the FA need to get that right. They need to get that right, and I'm sure she wasn't in any mental state for the play for Birmingham that day. But
I wouldn't have thought so.
As I say, it was bad timing, and the fact that they sent her a text or an email, whatever it was. I mean, common courtesy to me would say, whoever's running the show, gives them a phone call. Gareth Southgate apparently phones, and previous England managers have phoned players to let them know that unfortunately they've been dropped. But I just think emails or texts is the cool way of doing it, and no wonder the poor girl was in tears. So moving on to fantastic that the Manchester United women are actually getting to play at Old Trafford. Yep. I think they should be playing at Old Trafford for every home game, personally.
I agree with that.
And I say that for all football sides.
Yep. Same with Southampton women in Southampton Football Club.
Exactly, 100%. Because again, we're breaking down barriers here, Mark.
It's good enough for the men, it's good enough for the women.
The thing is the real shame for the Man United team is that they're not, this hasn't happened during normal times.
Also, Mark, and also Sisterhood FC, the first ever women's team, Muslim team in the UK, wasn't one of the big clubs step in and say, you can play at our ground?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Perfect opportunity to showcase diversity.
Yeah, no, 100%. The thing is there's so much more that we could be doing to embrace different things and positive things, positive things that are happening within football, within women's football and everything else. And, just to say on the Man United thing, it's just such a shame that it's happening in lockdown, because it gives their families, the supporters of them, the long-term supporters of them, the chance to go and sit in a home ground and watch a game. And it should be happening across the board with the football clubs.
Absolutely. Yeah, in regards to diversity, obviously massive congratulations to Yasmini Abdullahi for forming the first ever women's Muslim football team in the UK. Fantastic.
I just thought this was fantastic. And when she said, I have a dream of seeing the first girl to play for England in a, I just thought brilliant. And, if you get a chance to read the story, it's on the BBC website.
Absolutely.
The team that she formed, as Mark said, it's called Sisterhood FC. And she's just such a positive person. And
go to the BBC Sport website under football and read the article, everyone.
And let's hope at some point one of the Sisterhood FC players are representing the women's England football team.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, Marianne Spacey Cow, if you're listening, get a couple of them down at Southampton. Do your bit as well. Power to the women. Anyway, that brings us to the end of that section of the pod for today. So we're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, Saints in the press and transfer gossip. And then followed after that will be the Two Saints preview of Bournemouth versus Saints in the FA Cup. We'll be right back. After the very last story about Steve Cottrell. So Steve Cottrell has returned home after COVID treatment, Mark. Brilliant news.
Fantastic news, mate. The reason why I raised this one again was for those that may be unaware that obviously Steve had already spent time in hospital and he was actually back in for a second session. I mean, I was so worried when I heard that he'd gone back in for a second time, to be honest with you. So obviously he's had a really bad reaction to having the COVID and everything else. But I'm just so relieved that he's back home, and obviously he's a football man. I mean, like you said previously, he'd done a lot of work from his hospital bed in terms of organising, picking the team and everything else. So, the other concern that we'd have is I just hope that, Shrewsbury give him the time, now that he's out of hospital, to recuperate, stick by him as the manager, and hopefully at the end of the day, once he comes through that, there's better times ahead for Steve Cottrell and for Shrewsbury Town.
Absolutely right. Yep, that sums up brilliantly, Mark. Nicely done.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, Saints in the press and Saints transfer gossip. So, starting with Saints in the press, Ralph Hasenhüttl is concerned there's a lack of urgency amongst his Saints players. Ralph Hasenhüttl alludes to the fact that if you don't win games, you are always in danger. Absolutely right there, Ralph. And Ralph Hasenhüttl welcomed him in the international break because it gives him a bit of time to work with the players on the training ground. And the last time we had a break, people, if you remember rightly, was Project Restart, and quite a different team came back after that. So Ralph's got a bit of time to work with him now, Mark, and work on the basics that he was screaming at them about at the Brighton game.
So of those three articles, I'm just going to cover two, because what the middle one to me is self-explanatory.
Absolutely.
Right? And the middle headline was, for the listeners?
The middle headline was Ralph Hasenhüttl saying, if you don't win games, you're always in danger.
Yes.
Well, you don't say Sherlock.
I'm not saying anything to that. That is self-explanatory.
Yep.
I just want to extend on the urgency thing.
Yeah, lack of urgency was the first one, and the last one was the international break.
I'll just go back refer you back to my review of the game.
Yep.
And when we were talking about Ralph on the touchline, right? There was certainly plenty of urgency in his voice, but unfortunately that didn't translate to the players on the pitch. Right. And it is a concern. It is a concern. And, let's hope that Sunday was a wake-up call, and we're not getting dragged into anything that we can't handle. Just to turn around and say as well, Mark, on the final article of that, I'll say this. I agree with Ralph. I think the international break can't come quick enough for us at the minute. I know we've got a big game on, And it is a big game in terms of confidence on Saturday, and I'm not ignoring it, and we will cover it.
Yep.
But in terms of having a break, I think I'm right in saying that there's been 2 other international breaks this season, right?
Yep.
And it has given Ralph the opportunity on both occasions to work on things.
Yep.
And the team have come back with positive results.
Yep.
So let's hope it's a chance for them to refocus,
That's right.
regroup,
Yep.
get their mojo.
And get rid of some of that fatigue as well.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, because of course it takes its toll. I know it's the same for everybody. We're just focusing on Saints here.
Well, and in fairness, Mark, Ralph does use and employ a system that requires a very high energy level, to be fair. It's a very high energy level game that he plays. And you do need to be absolutely, to get the best out of that system, you need to be 100%.
100%.
And obviously part of the issue is they're probably not 100% at the moment because of the equipment they can't use and the lack of recovery time and stuff like that. I'm not making excuses, but obviously Ralph's system requires high intensity, high energy, and it does take its toll, 100%.
The thing is whether our fans like it or not, I mean, the thing is Ralph's system is very similar to Klopp's.
Yep.
And we've seen how, Liverpool's title defence basically is in tatters this season.
Yep, exactly.
And it's because of the amount of impact injuries and everything else that they're having.
Yep.
I think a few weeks ago I went through a chart and I said to you, Liverpool were top, we were third, Leicester were second.
Yep.
And the thing is,
if you look at Saints' injuries,
that comes from pressing. Like
but
you
the thing,
said,
and if you look at the Saints. Look at the Saints' injuries, they're all muscle related. They're either groin or hamstring, and that is from high pressing, high intensity, a lot of running. That's where these injuries are coming from. It's coming from hamstrings, groins, thigh muscles. It's all to do with running.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. And as you say, I mean, the international break can't come quick enough because it gives you the chance to regroup, refocus, and also make sure that everybody's raring to go till the end of the season.
Yeah, and also, let's not forget, everybody, Ralph is has given everyone a good indication that Danny Ings could well be fit after the international break. So that's good news too.
Yeah, oh no, 100%, mate, because I keep saying this. I didn't agree with, people just in case they think I'm an out-and-out Ralph supporter. One of the criticisms that I do level with Ralph was he dropped Shea Adams because he felt that he wasn't scoring goals. But the thing is Shea Adams for me would be on the pitch every time because there are very few players that carry a goal threat. And him and Danny Ings in tandem, that's a goal threat.
Yeah.
And the only other goal threats we have is maybe Jan Bednarek or Vestergaard from set plays.
Yep.
Set plays.
Yep.
Right? Or James Ward-Prowse or Stuart Armstrong.
Yep,
the fact of the matter is no one else is chipping in many goals. So you play the players, that are a goal threat on the pitch. And I just didn't agree. I didn't agree. Yes, he was off form, but I didn't agree with Ralph dropping him at the time.
Yep.
So go Shea and Ralph, just make sure that you're picking him from now till the end of the season when he's available.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So moving on to Saints transfer gossip. There's a rumour circulating from the Mirror that Tottenham are in a summer move for Yannick Vestergaard. That's the first one. Second one is Southampton are one of the sides being linked with a move for Slavia Prague striker Jan Kuster, saying the 24-year-old could be Danny Ings' replacement. Premier League sides are monitoring Hatayspor striker Aaron Bupenza, and Southampton fans react to transfer rumour links linking Southampton with goalkeeper Fernando Pacheco.
Right, so let's go to the first one. And the first one's Vestergaard. Obviously, Tottenham are doing what they did last summer in the sense that they've noticed that Vestergaard is yet to sign a new contract and his contract's up next summer. And I dare say that if one or two targets falls by the wayside, because I would have thought that they probably got top targets that they're looking at, and Vestergaard comes into that, but he probably comes in a little bit lower down. Yep. So maybe if they're looking around or scrambling around and they're thinking, haven't got a lot of money to spend because of the COVID, Yannick all of a sudden becomes, an alternative to that. But I would still expect at least to get the £18 million that we paid for him.
Yep.
And as I say, is it possible? I would probably think yes, it is. It's very possible. But I think it's a case of just sitting and waiting to see if they decide to make a move for him.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and Saints linked with 24-year-old striker Jan Kuster from Slavia Prague, Mark, which is probably a market Saints should be shopping in, as you said. And Susek and Kufal, I think it is. Is it Kufal? Both been massive success at West Ham.
Yeah. This one kind of baffles me a little bit, because even though we sit and we say we've got very little money to spend in the summer, right? I mean, Slavia Prague, they beat Rangers last night. They're now in the last 8 of the Europa League, right? Defensively, they're one of the top teams in Europe, believe it or not, in terms of conceding goals and stuff like that. And I've long said to you about it's an avenue that Southampton should be looking at, because when Souček and Kufel went to West Ham, it was for a combined fee of around 14 million quid. We're paying that for one player, and they're getting 2 players. And I dare say the market now, the value of Slavia Prague players will go up slightly. So they need to be careful there. But it's definitely that striker is definitely somebody that Saints should be looking at. He is a viable alternative, and he may not cost the earth.
Yeah, the other striker they're looking at is Aaron Bupenza from Hatayspor.
Yeah, he looks much more lively, but again, I worry because I do think I've seen a little bit of footage of him, and he looks unpredictable. Unpredictable in a good way, but then it could be unpredictable in a bad way.
Yeah, you never quite know.
Maybe out of the two of them, I would tend to go with the Czech Republic player before I go with this lad from Turkey.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Saints fans reacting to a post on Twitter which relayed a report that claimed Saints are interested in a summer suite for Fernando Pacheco, the Deportivo Alaves goalkeeper.
Yeah, I find this one interesting, Mark, because Fraser Foster's last year of his contract, from the summer, right? He's in the last year of his contract this summer. And obviously, Alex McCarthy, that one's a little bit up in the air. I know a few weeks ago they were reporting that, they were in contract talks with him. But I'm thinking to myself, given recent performances, are they in contract talks with him? So watch that space on these. But I do think that a new keeper coming in could be a possibility, because the whole Angus Gunn situation's completely up in the air. And we need to see what's happening there. Does he go back to Stoke City for another season? Or, will he come back to Southampton and fight for his place? But I don't think you're going to have three goalkeepers. So it'll be interesting to see if they decide to move this summer for a keeper, or whether it'll be next summer. Maybe it's one that doesn't need to be addressed necessarily. But given the form of the keepers at the minute, who knows? Yep,
exactly that. Right, and that brings us to the end of that. So we're going to take a very short break now, last one of the day, and we're going to be doing the Two Saints preview of Bournemouth versus Saints in the FA Cup quarter-final when we come back in 2 minutes.
Fiesta 95 FM, the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back. So, the Two Saints preview of a massive weekend. Bournemouth versus Saints in the quarter-final of the FA Cup, Mark. The last time out for Saints at Bournemouth 0, Saints 2. A late VAR drama leaving the Cherries on the brink. So, yeah. That was down at the Vitality, I believe.
Yeah, it was. Goals from Danny Ings and Shea Adams. Shea Adams right at the death. About the game itself, there's slight trepidation for me going into it, Mark. I know I know we've spoken about Bournemouth won on Tuesday night against Swansea 3-0, and it was a resounding victory.
Yes.
And the guy, funnily enough, that I earmarked looks like he's going to be out injured, which is Junior Stanislas.
Yep.
But I'm just weary because I sort of sit there and I think all the cards are kind of being stacked in our favour. But then I look at the run of results that we've had.
Yep.
It's still a potential banana skin, and I am slightly, I'll be honest, I am slightly nervous about it. But
yeah, I understand.
The thing is it's an opportunity for the team to get things back on track. And that's what's more important. They need a shot in the arm for the confidence, for everything else. And I would have said this, if they were playing a game of tiddlywinks. The thing is like there was too many people, as I said, that went in the meltdown. I got messages left, right, and centre saying, I don't care about the FA Cup. All I care about is making sure we stay in the Premier League. And all I want to say about that, Mark, is, Saturday's an opportunity for the players to get a bit of confidence back, get a win, get a bit of confidence back. So that this game, and I'm not looking at the fact that, they're going to Wembley for the semi-final, but this game represents an opportunity for them to get a bit of confidence, which I think is sorely needed within the side. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory.
Yep, me too.
And let's hope that they can get the show back on the road before we go for an international break. And it's very, very important that they regroup and refocus during that time.
And Bournemouth got their issues as well. Shane Long's ineligible to play against Southampton, obviously. He's on loan from us, so he's ineligible to play. David Brooks is out with an ankle injury. That's probably good news because he's always been a thorn in our side whenever we've played them. Lewis Cook's out after rupturing his ACL. And Junior Stanislas actually limped off against Swansea, so he's a late fitness test. So he's looking doubtful. But David Brooks is definitely out. Lewis Cook's out.
He's the danger man.
So chances are Stanislas is probably going to be past fit because they'll risk him, won't they? They will risk him. Southampton, basically, nobody's really doubtful for Saints. The only person ineligible is Takumi Minamino. And the only other players missing out of injury or long-term injuries, Theo Walcott, Danny Ings, Oriol Romeu, Michael Obafemi and Will Smallbone. So Saints are pretty much full strength apart from those that I've just mentioned. So the cards have fallen our way, Mark, as you say. But, I'm going for 2-0 Saints, but it's not a foregone conclusion. It won't be an easy game. But if Saints are at the races, they should win it. And they should win it comfortably 2-0. So I agree with that. For me, I don't really have anything further to add on that, apart from common new Reds. So thanks ever so much for joining myself and Mark H on the podcast today. So it's goodbye from me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the trouble to listen. I hope it was an enjoyable one for you. In the meantime, until next week, we're going to have a break, but we're going to do a show hopefully next week. So until next week, keep well, stay safe, and all the best. And thanks for listening, as I said.
Absolutely right. In regards to the podcast, the ways to access the podcast are these. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints Podcast Show is now available via Spotify, SoundCloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. Right, there we go. And all that's left for me to say is join us again next week when the Two Saints go marching in again. Goodbye.
Goodbye.